Good morning, you're watching Business World Live. I'm Danny Laurel.
And I'm Jess De Los Santos. Here are the biggest stories to kickstart this trading day, Monday. The Bangko Sentral finds no reason to hike interest rates despite inflationary risks caused by surging oil prices. The BSP says it's a government that should come up with solutions to tame inflation instead.
Another round of oil price hikes is expected this week.
With just a few days away from their return to the office, BPO workers reiterate their push for a hybrid work setup.
And Tycoon Manny Villar continues to expand his empire as his group seeks to raise more than 9 billion pesos from an IPO of Vista Lands REIT. We begin our broadcast with the Bangko Sentral ruling out the possibility of tightening policy on the back of incessant oil price spikes.
Now, BSP Governor Ben Jocno says surging oil and commodity prices are supply problems that are better managed by interventions from the national government. Jocno says an increase in policy rates will not change the reality that energy prices have soared due to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. He says the BSP can only pull the trigger on a rate hike when second-round effects coming from the demand side, such as fare and wage increases, begin to influence inflation. Jocno is instead urging Malacanang to pursue initiatives to tame inflation in the short term. He says the executive branch should increase fuel subsidies and widen the options for promotional discounts from oil firms to mitigate the impact of oil price increases.
And speaking of oil prices, another round of price hike is in the offing. UniOil predicts diesel prices to soar by up to 8 pesos and 30 centavos per liter starting tomorrow, March 29. The company also forecasts that gasoline prices may increase by up to 3 pesos and 10 centavos per liter. Oil companies are expected to release their official price adjustments today. The Energy Department has yet to release a statement regarding this possible new round of fuel price hikes.
Now, in other news, the Alliance of Call Center Workers says a hybrid work arrangement is the only healthy compromise for employees in the IT BPO sector. The group says the government should allow BPO workers to decide whether to work from home or on-site amid traffic and rising fuel prices. The group's stand comes ahead of the March 31 expiration of the work-from-home arrangements of IT BPO workers in economic zones. Starting April 1st, employees of IT BPO firms registered with the PEZA are mandated to conduct on-site work, or the companies will risk losing tax incentives. With just a few days away from their mandated return to on-site work, how hopeful are BPO employees that an extension to the hybrid mode of work will be granted? Let's find out from Eman David, co-convener of the Alliance of Call Center Workers. Good morning, Eman. Thank you for joining us today.
Hello, good morning, Sir Jester, Ma'am Danny. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you for joining us. No need to call us ma'am, sir here, but we're just a few days away from you guys at least being required to return to on-site work. What's the situation like on the ground? Are call centers already preparing for this, or are some BPO firms already implementing on-site work again?
Well, yes, some BPO firms are actually implementing on-site work already. Some have been gracious enough to forgo on-site work in lieu of their tax benefits. Mm-hmm. As for the agents on the ground, they have mostly been anxious about the situation. That's why, actually, ever since we had our press conference a few days back, a lot of agents, a lot of BPO employees have actually joined us and asked us for updates as to what's going to happen on our end. Now on our end, on ACW's end, we actually have sent feelers to DOLE Secretary Bello for a possible dialogue, which we are hopeful of getting on it before the 31st. And we're also hopeful that we would be able to finish our court petition by then, so that we would be actually able to engage the court system in this. But we remain hopeful that this is something that can be resolved April 1st deadline or no. Hopefully, this can be resolved.
Okay, pending the dialogue with the Labor Department, to your knowledge, are there BPO companies here that are willing to forego tax perks and incentives set by the FIRB? Can you give us details on that? How many BPOs are we talking about here and from which locations as well?
Yes, there are 4 to 6 BPOs as per our initial reports that have come to us. There
Okay.
might be more. Unfortunately, we cannot disclose that information because there might be a mass exodus from those who have allowed employers to return to their offices to those who still implement work from home. So this is something that we would rather want to avoid. So we would not want to disclose
Disclose
things.
that.
But some have actually delisted from PEZA. Some are still with PEZA but are foregoing the tax perks
Okay.
as of now. And actually, speaking of PEZA, they have said that it would be 70-30, 70 on-site work, 30% work from home. We're still waiting for their memo, and I believe they would still be appealing this. IBPAP would also be appealing this as far as we know.
Okay, Eman, can we take a step back and give us an idea what happened during pandemic? How many percentage of the employees were, I don't know, left the company, left the industry, or how many were added to the industry, and to what extent did the employees work from home, work hybrid, come back to the office, and how has it changed right now, just to understand the situation better?
Right. Well, actually, let's take a step even further back. So Feb 2020, this was 1 month before the pandemic. So us who were living in the metro, we had to brave this heavy traffic every day because our shift is at night, and when we go to work, those who come from work from the day shift that's their rush hour. So we have to brave that. We have to face that. Those who come from the provinces, they rent. They rent in the metro.
Correct,
So this is something that is an additional expense to
Magastos.
them. Yes, those who have children, they have to arrange for childcare. Now once work from home was implemented, we no longer have to brave traffic. We know those of us who live in the province, we no longer have to rent in Metro Manila. Those of us who have children, we can take care of our children while having work. So yeah, basically that's the situation during work from home, and that's actually working. A lot of us have actually stayed in our
Okay.
jobs because we're not. It would be
Forced.
better for us to stay rather than to risk resigning and applying elsewhere while the situation is still unstable. But in 2 years it has been stable. We have proven that work from home works. And who agrees with us? Our employers, our clients. Our clients are usually very security conscious, but they decided to trust us with their clients, with their information. Our employers are actually security conscious, but they actually saw that we can be productive while working from home. That's why there's a significant number of companies who's willing to continue working from home, or really don't want to go back on site. But on pain of the FIRB cutting their tax breaks, they had to have their employees return on site. But our employers are with us with this. IBPAP is with us in this.
Right.
So
Okay.
yeah.
So, Emma, do you have a feeler of how many employees might actually consider resigning after March or from April 1st? And also, what kind of incentives need to be out there for people to say, oh, sige, worth it na to go
or to
back
at
to
least
the
encourage them.
pre-pandemic situation? As you mentioned, medyo mahal. They'll have to go back to their dorms. They're going to move from their provinces back. What kind of incentives are needed to keep the same level of commitment?
Yeah. Now, firstly, I just want to make some things clear because we have actually been, I don't know, misunderstood maybe on this issue. We are not calling for mass resignation of BPO employees. Doing so would be responsible because there are those who maybe want to resign. There are those who are inconvenienced by this return to office order but cannot resign because they need the
Correct,
job,
of
they need the
course.
money. So yeah, we're not calling for our colleagues to resign. What we're doing here is we're reporting that I believe that during the press conference that we had, we cited numbers from an online poll that we initially held during the early stages of our group. That's where the significant numbers are coming from. So wait, let me just pull up the poll here. Just give me a moment here. But while I'm pulling it up, let as for compromises or incentives, frankly I'm confused by the question because if you're asking for a compromise, then there should be a negotiation in the first place. But the thing is,
Okay.
government has not agreed to a dialogue with us at this point in time. So maybe when there's a dialogue, that's when we would be able to say that we can compromise. Now, going back to the poll. So in the early days of our group, this is the exact question. If matutuloy ang pagbabalik sa working on-site on April 1, magre-resign ba kayo? Yes,
Okay.
155 votes. Undecided, 115 votes. No, 37 votes.
Oh,
Now,
wow.
of course, this is not a scientific survey, so I
Yes.
mean, this is not something we can
Correct.
afford. But this is pretty much a clear percentage of the group sentiments, of BPO employee sentiments. And again, going back to incentives or compromises, as one of my colleagues, I believe, told you in a statement that the incentive that we're asking for is the continuation of the hybrid work proposal because yeah, we have proven that it works. So why not continue it? Why not for those who want to stay in a work from home environment? Why not allow them to continue that? We have a law for that, RA 11165
Okay.
Telecommuting Act. So the government is actually allow, allowed to rather mandated to honor these telecommuting or this work from home arrangements. So yeah, that's the compromise that we are agreeing with here.
Okay, I mean, the way I get it, of course, you are at least outlining here the various benefits of working from home, the hybrid setup here. Initially, of course, a cause have been to extend this. Should that be the case, for how long do you see this extending, or are you also pushing for this to be a permanent setup for BPO companies?
Yes, we're actually pushing for this to be a permanent setup because it works. The BPO companies believe that this is something that is productive for both us and for them. So again, my call is for those who want to continue working from home. We implore the government to allow them to work from home. Again, there's a legal framework for this, RA 11165. So if the government honors that or allows employers to implement that without pain of losing tax perks, then yes, we can actually do this indefinitely. We can actually do this permanently as long as there are employees who want to work from home. Then yes, they can and they should be allowed to work from home. Now, of course, there are those who want to work on site. Maybe those who I don't know. Maybe those who need the routine. For instance, I have a cousin who really needs the routine of waking up, fixing himself up to go to work. That's why he prefers on-site work. And there are those who I don't know. Maybe cannot have a good work from home setup while at home because of limited space in their houses. or maybe I don't know, those who would rather be with 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 their families
Yeah.
less and work in
Okay.
the offices
Well, it's a
more.
factor.
So yeah,
Okay. Uh,
let's allow them. But those who want to work from home, let's allow them too. Yeah.
All right. So, last question before we let you go, Eman. Have there been
Mhm.
studies in terms of, the productivity benefits of keeping the
Mhm.
people working from home versus the tax
Mhm.
incentives? Might be useful
Mhm.
naman. And, it's not so much that people are forced to go on
On
site.
site.
It's more a
Mhm.
matter of the companies saying, oh, sige, let's forego the tax revenues. But the government is saying naman, well, if you want to keep that level of productivity, you should earn
Mhm.
much more
Compared to
compared to the tax incentives that are being offered here for you to stay in the PEZA accredited
Mhm.
buildings. Is that something that you've been looking into, and to what extent can you already say, okay, this is actually worth it for BPO companies to continue this current setup?
Yeah, in terms of studies, it's hard to conduct a study like that because in the BPO industry, productivity metrics, revenue metrics are confidential. But here's a good indicator: the fact that BPO employers agree to, in a general sense, to continue the work from home setup proves that we can be productive at home. There's no significant revenue, although again, this is something that we might want to look into in depth in the future. But on our end, we feel that the fact that our companies allow us to, I mean, would rather have the benefit of us working from home, being more productive there, I would presume, than moving to the offices or resigning and having them forego this additional revenue. I mean that the fact that many of them chose this benefit of us continuing to work from home and being productive there is proof that
Right.
this can actually work.
Okay. Very interesting insights there. Thank you so much, Emma David, co-convener of the
Thank
Alliance
you.
of Concerned Call Center Workers.
Yeah, thank you.
Meanwhile, in other news, the Taal volcano remains under alert level 3 this morning. This means that there is still magmatic unrest at the main crater of the volcano that may cause stronger eruptions. FIVOX urges residents in the Taal Volcano Islands and high-risk barangays in Batangas to evacuate. Although the agency also reports that no new volcanic earthquakes were detected in Taal.
PVOLC's Director Renato Solidum warns that the slow magma movement in the Taal volcano will continue over the coming days. Now, speaking with us here on One News, Solidum says they have yet to see the activity in Taal escalating, at least as of yesterday. Magma has yet to rise towards the surface, but he notes that the Taal volcano will remain under alert level 3 as long as phreatomagmatic events continue. Now, for now, Solidum says they can only recommend evacuation of residents from the 5 at-risk barangays in Laurel and Agoncillo. As of yesterday, over 3,000 families have evacuated to a safer ground.
The fact that the main crater rim is lowest in front of them would put them in danger in case of stronger eruptions. The local government of Agoncillo and Laurel will then have to manage how the people will be evacuated or whether they would let men to stay behind.
Coming right up after the break. After a few months of suspension, PAL Holdings resumes trading on the local bourse.
We'll take a look at the stock's performance this morning when Business World Live returns. Stay with us.
You're still watching Business World Live here on One News. I'm Jess De Los Santos.
And I'm Danny Laurel.
All right, Dan, waking up to a new week and yet closing off the last trading days of March, and inflation is still the spooky word of 2022 today. Tell us more.
Grabe, Jess, it is March 28 already. Where did the time go? Like you mentioned, spookiness still on the local bourse here. We are trading down by 0.3%. So we've just been, trading on such a tight range here. Last week, we were ending in the green and then clawing our way up yet again. And then finally, we're back to some level of correction here. And this week, according to analysts, the market will continue, of course, to monitor that ongoing war between Russia and the Ukraine and the impact on commodity prices. Again, some misery over the weekend. Rockets struck the western Ukrainian city of Lviv on Saturday. There might be a new issue in terms of Moscow's invasions. More than a month of fighting already, just thousands of people killed, 3.8 million people leaving their homes. And that, of course, has been a factor in terms of the oil prices rocking the rest of our industries here. Let's take a look at one specific industry, though, that may, so to speak, have a better benefit or stand a chance, and that is the renewable energy space. Of course, we are looking at how to be more energy independent, and one in particular is SPNEC, that is, of course, Solar Philippines, Nueva Ecija. It has pared back a touch, although it seems to be up again by 1% to 2 pesos and 2 centavos. This after it hit a 3-week high on Friday, as the parents said that there might be a subscription for a joint solar venture in Indonesia. That's in Bali. That's with the Medco Energy, where it now has a 49% stake. They said they signed a 20-year purchase power agreement with the state utility in Indonesia for 2 25-megawatt solar farms in East and West Bali. ASEN, meanwhile, another solar energy player, also agreed to invest in a development here for a domestic power projects. And I just wanted to show our viewers here, Philippine Airlines, of course, not yet trading, but we are expecting that to resume trading today. PAL right now trading at 6 pesos and 5 centavos, or not yet trading rather, but as before it went into trading halt, that was the price. So very interesting to see what that is going to be looking like. And finally, just a quick peek on the property space, particularly Vista Land and, of course, the REITs. This as Villar will be offering up to 3.33 billion secondary shares at a price of 2 pesos and 50 centavos to raise around 9.2 billion pesos in their IPO REIT. Now, they have announced this already earlier on. They will be having an initial portfolio of 10 community malls and 2 PEZA registered office buildings. Now, what they have said is that during the pandemic, at least over the past 3 years, the occupancy rates have still been between 93 to 100%. Just taking a quick peek here at Vista Land, the parent company, of course, which is up by 0.4% this morning.
Here are the other headlines we're keeping our eyes on. A study by the Bangko Sentral shows that fewer local companies are eyeing to expand their operations even if they plan to hire more workers. BSP's Business Expectations Survey finds that companies planning to expand in the next 12 months fell to 25.6% from the 26.8% last quarter. Businesses have also become less optimistic in the first quarter as they see inflation settling above the BSP's target in the coming months.
Now, the government's infrastructure spending rose by almost a third to 895 billion pesos last year. That is higher than the government's over 760 billion peso target. The Budget Department traced the higher spending to a low base as the government realigned funds amid the pandemic. The DBM says it was also boosted by spending on roads, flood barriers, multi-purpose buildings, railways, and airports.
Now, this from the Philippine Star. The Asian Development Bank says Manila and other urban cities need better public transport to improve the livability of these areas. In a recent report, the ADB said urban areas need to offer more and better public transport options to cut traffic jams and pollution. It added that merely constructing roads is not the solution, as this will only encourage the purchase of more private vehicles that contribute to congestion. Meanwhile, the month-long free MRT3 rides program has started today. This initiative is used to promote the quote, improved services of the MRT, and also serves to help ease the burden of Filipino workers amid inflation and rising fuel costs.
And Fitch Solutions is expecting broad policy continuity in the Philippines after the presidential elections in May. The think tank pointed out that the leading candidates' stances are not too dissimilar and are still mostly aligned with President Duterte's administration. That's why Fitch Solutions is expecting a smooth transition to the new administration with only minor changes to economic policy.
But again, still lots remain to be, we're still in wait and see mode, of course, when it comes to that. And we're just how many days away from the election? 40 plus days.
Exactly, less than 42 days, Jess, to the May 9 polls, Jess.
Okay, very exciting times ahead. And that's a first look into the business day this Monday, March 28, 2022. Join us again tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. You can also catch us on Signal Play. Register for your free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News Live anytime, anywhere. I'm Jess De Los Santos.
And I'm Danny Laurel. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.